Hello, Big Ocean women. My name is Bergen Hyde, and I am a cottage leader for a Provo, Utah cottage. I was asked by Big Ocean to kind of talk about what it was like having our first cottage meeting, which we just had a few days ago. So I'm getting on to do a short little video to talk about what it was like and what we did. And the reason why they asked me was because we kind of did a little experiment and did something different than is normally done in cottages. And that is we had a kid-friendly cottage. So I just want to share with you some things we learned in case you feel like that's something that would really meet the needs of the women that will be a part of your cottage, so that you can maybe troubleshoot a few things and plan in a way that will help your cottage to be successful. So I really felt like it was important for our first cottage to get as many women involved as possible, and a way to make that happen, especially for women who are just barely getting introduced to Big Ocean and aren't sure how they're going to fit in, or how they want to prioritize it, or if they want to be a part of it, or what it's going to look like in their everyday lives. I wanted to just say, bring your kids during the day, come to the cottage and just see what it's like for you, see if you feel like this is something you can invest in. And so it really was a way for us to get as many women there as possible to say it's okay for you to bring your kids, because that is such a challenge sometimes to find someone to watch your kids or to get a night off to come. So I feel like it was a great way to get as many women as we could there for our first cottage. The other thing that really happened that I was so excited about was I felt like, because so many women felt like they could come, because their kids could come with them, we had such a great sense of diversity, just women from lots of different backgrounds, women with lots of different life experiences, and the things that they shared were just really powerful, and it was like we were all the same and yet so different at the same time, and I just really, really loved that. Different stages of life, and so it really helped us to have a more diversity. The other thing that I think was really important about it was that oftentimes women who are so busy with their own children and their own families at home, especially, stay-at-home moms, I feel like their voices aren't heard the way that they should be, and it allowed for those women's voices to be heard. Women who needed to be able to bring their kids, for their voices to be heard, for them to be involved in something, and for them to make a contribution to Big Ocean, and to also gain something from being a part of Big Ocean that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to. So I really love that. Also, it just makes sense to me that because we believe in faith and family and motherhood, that we should create a safe space for kids to be there. And I think there's something so powerful about our children seeing us doing this work and having these conversations, and seeing women from different backgrounds who feel so strongly about their work and their impact in the world as mothers. And even if they didn't really know what we were doing or were really paying attention to what we were talking about, just them being there and seeing that these women were gathered together for a really powerful purpose, I think is amazing. And I love taking my children when I'm doing service. I want them to see that they can do good things. And so I think that's also a really beautiful part of having our kids there, is that they're seeing what women really do and who women really are. And I think it's inspiring for them too, and it shapes the way that they view the world. So some kind of concerns, some things that were concerns for us. We had about 15 women and there were 25 kids. So there were actually more kids, way more kids than there were women. And there were times when it was a little bit distracting. Kids needed things and they were kind of, running past and, making noise and needing help. And so a lot of times moms would have to get up and go and make sure their kids were okay and kind of help their kids navigate some things. And so that was a little bit challenging. It was maybe a little bit distracting for some people. But at the same time, that's just when you're a mom and you have kids, that's just like your whole life, right? Is that everything you do, you have to do it with all these other distractions, and we're like always multitasking and taking care of people and doing other things at the same time. So although it was distracting, I felt like there were times where it was distracting for some people, and really some people, it didn't bother them at all, that it was something that was manageable, even with that many kids there. So something to consider is how many kids will be there, what ages will they be, is the venue that we're holding our meeting in a kid-friendly space, is there a place for them to play, what activities might we have for them. So it really adds a lot of kind of logistical things to consider when you're bringing kids in. We had food there, and so that was kind of logistically tricky because the kids were wanting to eat food, and we didn't want the host to feel like her house was going to be trashed, and so we were kind of trying to navigate the food with the kids. That was another thing you might consider. I feel like it helps kids to have snacks, but then it also added this other element of stress, maybe for the host and for the moms trying to manage kids eating things. I already said, maybe you could come up with some activities that the kids could do, or if you did it outside, like at a park, how that might look. That might be hard to kind of keep track of all of your kids, but it also might give them something to do while their moms are discussing or working on things. So I think make sure that your host feels comfortable having so many kids in their house, and that the actual venue that you're meeting in is conducive to moms being able to watch their kids, but kids also being occupied so that moms can focus on the discussion and whatever service that they're doing at the time. And really be considerate of the host. We tried really hard to make sure that the kids all cleaned up toys afterwards, and that food was, cleaned up, and that each of the rooms that the kids were playing in was picked up afterwards, so the hostess didn't feel like she was carrying kind of an unfair load. So I would say as a suggestion that maybe it would be good if you're doing a play date group to keep it a little bit smaller, like maybe have several small play date groups instead of one large group, so that there's less kids and that moms can kind of focus in on each other a little bit better, and it's maybe a little bit more manageable that way. Make sure that you're considerate of your host, and that you plan for where the kids can be, set boundaries so that the kids know what the rules are of the house, and how many kids are going to be there and what age they are, and how and you can really decide that as a cottage. I think having kids at a cottage, it adds some challenges and adds some logistics, but it also can add some more richness and diversity, and it can be a real gift for the kids to see women doing these powerful things. And but it's also okay if you need to have a night cottage where there aren't kids there, and if that's kind of what your cottage needs, that's okay too. So what we've kind of decided is that we'll probably start 2 different cottages. We'll have a night cottage that's more of a kid-free style, and a daytime cottage where kids are welcome, and that will have to kind of be decided by those mothers and women who feel like they need a more daytime kid-friendly cottage, how that's going to look for them. Anyway, good luck with your cottages. Don't be afraid to just try things out. The women were so gracious and also very honest and open with kind of how they felt about the way the cottage went, and so I think that this is something you can definitely figure out how to do to meet the needs of the women that are going to be a part of your cottage. It might take a little bit of adjusting, and that's okay. And I wish you all the best, and hope that your cottages get started, and that you find amazing, powerful, impactful ways of using your cottage to make a difference in the world.